morning, Wiser Nation. Like, this is day 31. We made it. You all are the real MVPs. Some of you have been here from day one, every day live. Some of you have been here from day one. You missed the live, you watch the replay, and you leave a comment and say, hey, I'm here. Thank you for taking yourself so seriously. Thank you for honoring your destiny and showing up this way. Thank you also for honoring me, because you could have decided, Joyce, do your study yourself. We'll be cheering you on. Have fun. But no, you said, we'll join you. We'll speak together. We'll pray together. We'll study together. We'll cheer each other on. I'm hearing stories about some of you who are doing business together. Some people have brought their friends, their families, their bosses. Some people have reached out to me to say, my staff was attending and sent me this link, or well, I saw it and I joined, and here we are. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for making this happen. Thank you for the drive to stay on and stay through to the end, that by this time next year, we're going to be celebrating many testimonies and testimonials. So congratulations. We're so delighted. I'm not going to mention the names I'm seeing right now, because I feel like if I begin to mention names, I'll start tearing up. And y'all know I've been tearing up a lot this year. And let me save my tears for later, please. Please. There's a lot of crying to be done this last day of the year, with all the gratitude that we're going to be giving. So let me save my tears for now. I'm about to bring up our speaker for today, who I already love so much. I've known her practically all my life, but I've known her more in the last few weeks. She's my big sister from another mother. Why do we always say another mother, not another father? Never thought about it till now. But for sake, I would do it the way we usually do it on Wiser. She's an international speaker. Her name is Aya Fubara-Eneli. She's an attorney, a newspaper columnist, a best-selling author, and a life coach to women for almost 30 years. So all of you who are almost in your 30s, she's a mother of 5 and has been married to her sweetheart, Dr. Kenechukwu, since 1997. She's also an avid gardener and fitness enthusiast. So when you see her, you know what I mean. She's very intentional about sharing her love for God and for wellness. And when we say wellness, it's not just wellness of the body, but also wellness of the mind. Hence, she's an international premier provider of leadership and self-development training, primarily serving women and youth, meaning she serves all, but us first. She's coached clients in several countries around the world, authored 4 books, founder of the Intelligent and Talented Girls, IT Girls, which is a mentoring and leadership initiative for girls ages 10 to 17 years in Central Texas. And I'm sure those of us who have girls in this age bracket from around the world can also reach her after now to say, we would like some of our daughters to be a part of what it is you're doing. Her latest book, which is right here in my hand, Your Self-Love Revolution, a 30-day woman's guide to embracing divinity and creating the life of your desire. I got my copy yesterday. I'm so excited. So this is my January go-to for inspiring the self-love revolution in the life of Joyce Daniels. Everybody, please welcome Aya.
Hello, Wiser Nation. Let me tell you guys, I am so excited because I have watched a couple of the lives, but mostly the replay. And if you have been here from day one, I know your life is already transformed. If you're just tuning into this one, do yourself a big favor and go back and watch all the other ones. Like, this is timeless, period. So Joyce, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your vision, for your leadership, for your passion, for your courage, for your sacrifice, for your discipline, for really embodying everything we are about to read and study about in this chapter. You really truly are the embodiment of it. And it is an honor to know you, to see you blossoming, and to see you pulling other people, encouraging other people to come along on this journey. And I'm so grateful to be here tonight. So grateful.
Thank you so much, Big Sis. I love you so much. I'm just going to take the back seat right now. Everybody, over to you.
All right. Well, there's so much that I want to cover. I'm going to try and pace myself here. But I also want to get in all of this information in the time that we have. So first and foremost, welcome, 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 welcome. And if you can, just give yourself a nice hug. You know, we're always looking for love from other people. Just give yourself a nice hug and just say you've done well. Some of you have to drag yourselves out of bed. Some of you may still kind of be like a little sleepy right now, like if you were partying this weekend. Just give yourself a hug and just encourage yourself and just acknowledge the fact that you are here right now, this moment, and it's wonderful. And this is exactly where you are supposed to be. So as we jump into Proverbs 31, I want to say this before I go any further, and that is, we know that the Bible is inspired by God, and we know that everything that in the Bible is for our edification. We also understand, or should understand, that this word that we're reading, the Bible that we're reading in its physical form, has definitely been impacted by human beings in their politics and so on and so forth. What do I mean by that? You can find probably like 40 plus translations of the Bible. And depending on which translation you're reading, the words might be different. It might just switch things just enough. If you're someone who studies the Bible, you can almost justify just about anything with the Bible if you just take a snippet of it. So if someone comes up to me now and says something, whatever, and I take their eye out, I can say, hey, the Bible says an eye for an eye. But we know that if we read further in the Bible, it's also going to say turn the other cheek. So I preface what I'm about to share with you as we go through Proverbs 31 with this, in the sense that we don't read the Bible and just take the verse, cherry pick it, and just say, okay, I'll take this verse and I'll interpret it this way. We're really supposed to look at the entirety of the book, right? And really apply knowledge. And then, in God's wisdom, and then also understand that there is a distinct difference from the Old Testament and the New Testament. Because in the Old Testament, we were under the law, right? And in the New Testament, Jesus has now died, been crucified for our sins. It's a whole different ball game in terms of even our relationship with God, right? How we approach it. All right. So having prefaced it with that, let us jump in, and we're going to start with verse 1. It's important to note that although the first, I believe, 29 chapters of Proverbs were, for the most part, attributed to King Solomon, chapters 30 and 31 are not attributed to King Solomon. So this particular chapter, we like to say King Lemuel, but if you really read that first verse, these are words that came from his mother, at least the first 9 verses that we're going to read. So let's jump in immediately. All right. So actually, before I do that, hold on one second. Creator of the universe, the I am that I am, the Alpha and the Omega. I thank you for this opportunity to be here, gathered together in your presence. Father, you say that where 2 or 3 gather in your name, there you are. And oh my goodness, I don't know about the rest of you, but I hope you can feel the power. I hope you can feel your spirit just stirring. I hope that you have something to write with, that this is just, oh, I'm watching something, I'm being entertained. But this is about understanding that you are being called. We are being called to a whole different level. Jesus said, greater things than what I have done will you do in his name. And so if we really say that we are children of God, if we really understand, as Dr. Kafi reminded us, that God resides within us, then all this playing small has got to stop. And I am preaching to myself right now. So we just thank you. We just thank you, Lord, for this moment in time. We thank you for the visionary who brought us together. And we thank you for open hearts and open minds to receive, to understand, and to apply. In your name we pray. Amen. Okay. Now let's jump right in. All right. So verse 1 starts with the words of Lemuel, king of Massa, which his mother taught him. That's what the NIV version says. If you go to some other versions, you will hear it will be written a little differently, right? Now, for those of you who have children, and I believe that all of us, women and men, if you get to a certain age, you're a parent because there's always someone watching you. You don't have to physically have birthed that child. Now, I'm a woman who's experienced 4 miscarriages, so I intimately understand the joy. I happen to have 5 living children now. I intimately understand the joy of birthing and the pain of desiring a child and just not being able to make it happen. So when you read these next words, wherever you may be on this spectrum, I want a child, I've had a child, I lost a child, whatever it is, I want you to tap into. When I read the Bible, right, I put myself in it. I want to put myself in the shoes of the person talking. And I want to really feel it. I want those words to really resonate with me. So she says, "Oh, my son." Well, let me read from the one on the screen. "What, my son? What son of my womb? What shall I advise you, son of my vows and dedication to God?" I mean, you see the 3 different ways that she called that child. What, my son? What son of my womb? What shall I advise you, son of my vows and dedication to God? As I was reading this, I was thinking about some of you may have just, hey, I want to have a child, and you just had a child. Some of us had to pray like Hannah, okay? We had to pray. And we made certain decisions or made certain promises in that process. Some of you might still be in the process now of, God, if you would just, let me tell you, remember the promises you're making to God right now regarding this child. Remember the vows that you're making, because God is going to hold you responsible for those vows. I was reading this and I was thinking about the vows that I made after the last of my 4 miscarriages and how I said I was going to raise my children. I'm thinking of the vows I made when my last child was in the ICU, the intensive care unit. And they were telling me that if he survives, he will be brain damaged. Let me tell you, he's so far from it. That child is phenomenal. My parents call him the miracle baby. He's wherever he goes, he lights up the world. But when I was reading this verse, it was like, remember those vows and make sure you're doing your part. So when this mother of Lemuel is talking to him, you can, if you really pay attention, you can feel the gravity of the words. You can feel that there was something deep within her as a mother, where it's not just, oh, I've had a child, I hope it works out for the child. But there's this concern, this commitment to helping this child be the absolute best version of himself. You know, the Bible tells us to train up our children. If you've ever been on a sports team or something like that, there's a training that goes on, or even with academics, there's a training that goes on. Even now, what Joyce is talking about from a business perspective, there's a training that goes on. We are supposed to train our children, but let's carry on. It says, "Give not your strength to loose women, nor your ways to those who and that which ruin and destroy kings." I love this version of it. And as many other speakers have shared, when we talk about loose women, it's like a metaphor. It's not just women. And this chapter really has something for every one of us, male, female, whatever you may call yourself. But it's like, do not give your ways to those things that will ruin and destroy kings. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today has to do with knowing who you are, because when you know who you are, you show up in a different way. Growing up, my parents would say things like, "You're a Fubara." And we just understood what that meant. You're a Fubara meant that you don't go out anyhow and act crazy. You're not just representing yourself. You are representing a whole lineage. And so when we say we are the sons and daughters of God, if we really believe what we're saying, then we understand that we are God incarnate, if you will. And some of you may find that blasphemous, but if I'm made in the image of God, God dwells within me. If my body is a temple and the spirit is dwelling within me, then what are you talking about? So how then do I show up? And I'm telling you that once you get that shift in your mind, that you truly are the head and not the tail, that you truly are a beloved of the Holy One, you show up differently. You know, when Joyce was talking about strutting, I was like, yeah. And there are people who are around me who are like, oh, you know, who does she think she is? And there was a time in my life where I felt like I needed to shrink back. And now I'm just like, I know who I am. Who are you? And why are you so threatened by my excellence? And you want me to, okay, let's carry on. It is not for kings, O Lemuel. It is not for kings to drink wine or for rulers to desire strong drink, lest they drink and forget the law and what it decrees and pervert the justice due any of the afflicted. Give strong drink as medicine. I'm glad that they put that in parentheses there, as medicine, as opposed to just go make everybody else a drunkard. But give strong drink as medicine to him who is ready to pass away, and wine to him in bitter distress of heart. I want to pause here really quickly, because most of you on here, I believe, are of African descent. You're Nigerian or somehow connected to the continent of Africa. And if we study our history, we will recognize that alcohol played a really big role in the demise of a lot of our kingdoms. My family is from Opobo. We migrated from Bonny and King Jaja. You guys may have heard of King Jaja. King Jaja of Opobo, now with some other chiefs, now founded the place now called Opobo. But if you go through our history, you see that there was a civil war in Bonny. And a lot of it had to do with conflicts that were really played upon by the colonizers, and that they plied our leaders with a lot of strong drink. So much so that now in Nigeria, right, we will call our own traditional alcohol illicit gin. And then I guess the legitimate one is the one that we're importing, right? But they plied them so much with alcohol that they really perverted justice. They couldn't even take care of themselves, let alone their people. And so when you read biographies of King Jaja, one of the things it says is that he refused to take any strong drink because he saw how it decimated other people. We're about to celebrate the end of the year. Some of you, men in particular, you're going to go to these parlors, you're going to spend money that you shouldn't be spending. The amount of alcohol we consume in Nigeria and the way it is affecting us health-wise, if you are wiser, you will be doing something different. So if you agree with me, just put in the chat now. I am wiser. I am wiser. Like 2024, we're not spending this kind of money on alcohol, plying ourselves with strong drink. Okay, let's go on. Verse 7 says, let him drink and forget his poverty and seriously remember his want and misery no more. This is talking about a different way that we can maybe use, because quite frankly, the way our ancestors, whether it was palm wine, used to use this alcohol wasn't to drink to stupor. It was actually as a form of medicine. I remember as a young girl meeting the palm wine tapper and getting the palm wine for my mother to drink when she was breastfeeding my brother, because palm wine helps to increase your breast milk flow. Did you guys know that? I'm sure you knew that. And there are many other things. So us getting into this culture that it's all about really putting people into states that are less than ideal, that make them forget who they are as children of God and make them just live this very ordinary existence, so occupied with things that take them away from their calling, from their purpose. And it could be drugs, it could be food, it could be alcohol, it could be sex, it could be Netflix, it could be work for some of you, but working in a way, for some of you, it's even church. You're in church 24/7 and you're neglecting everything else that you need to do. So just pay attention. Okay. Number 8, verse 8 says, open your mouth for the dumb, those unable to speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are left desolate and defenseless. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and administer justice for the poor and needy. You know, one of the things that really struck me back in 2012, I was back home in Nigeria, and I was seriously contemplating moving back with my children. And so I was talking to some other women about, just the state of affairs in Nigeria. Education was a big thing for me. Like, where am I sending the kids to school? And every single person I talked to said, oh, and then this private school, and then this international school, and there's this and this and of course the amount of money that they were talking about that you pay for each of the, for each child. I'm like, I've got 5 kids. I'm paying what? This is why there's so much corruption. What salary are people making to be able to afford this? But the deeper question I had was, if all of you so-called elites have just decided that the education system is so bad, and your response has been to just pull your children out because you can afford to put them in these elite settings, who is speaking up for the desolate and defenseless? When I was about to leave Nigeria, and one of my family members was like, oh, we'll set up protocol for you. And I was like, what is protocol? They're like, oh, no, they'll meet you and then they'll just take you through there and you won't have to this. And then you go to the lounge and, just relax and all of that. And I was like, this is what you guys do because you have money and access. But what if you made the system better for everybody? Instead of me just saying, no, yeah, those people, they don't have as many resources. They're not as connected. They're desolate and defenseless. I'm not going to speak up for them. I'm just going to make things work for me. But then you turn around and complain about our country, but you don't see the times that you are walking in this. Y'all hear what I'm saying? If you're hearing what I'm saying and you agree, type in the chat, I am wiser. Because we're not just going through this exercise because we have nothing else to do with our time. The whole goal should be to see change in our lives. And as we individually change, we will see our families change. We will see our communities change. And by God, we will see our country and our continent change. Are you all not tired of the direction that Nigeria is going in? It starts with each and every one of us. Open your mouth, judge righteously, and administer justice for the poor and needy. Let's keep going. So now we get to verse 10. And this is the part of Proverbs 31 that, in my opinion, a lot of times, I feel like this whole, from verse 10 through 31, it is used to condemn women. It is used to control women. It is used to just deflate us. Because it's like, girl, she like the Proverbs 31 woman. And you keep comparing yourself and you're like, I need to do this and I need to that and I'm falling short. And you feel less than. And so hopefully today, by the time we are done with these next 21 verses, you are seeing things differently. And I really encourage you guys, put questions in the chat, whatever. And if Joy sees them at the end, and if we have some time, I might be able to address anything specific that you have. But verse 10 says, a capable, intelligent, and virtuous woman, who is he who can find her? She's far more precious than jewels, and her value is far more above rubies or pearls. What the NIV version has done is pretty much taken the different definitions of the Hebrew term that was used here. So there's some Bibles where it will just say a virtuous woman. There's some that will just say an excellent wife. There's someone that will just say a capable wife. There's some that will just say virtue, but the Hebrew word was kail, which really can be interpreted in a number of ways. But one of the ways that those who have really broken down the Bible say was originally interpreted was a woman of strength. That that virtue wasn't as we see it now with just high moral character. It was really more about strength, the ability to come and make things happen, right? and that she is far more precious than jewels, and her value is far more than rubies or pearls, because some had jewels, some had rubies, some had pearls, some even had diamonds. But remember, when the Bible was written, what was available, and the fact that as time goes on, man will interpret it or use the words that they feel will more apply to where we are today. So when we read this, I think it's really important to understand that we're not just talking about a wife. And I know that in Nigeria, we got wife on our brain. We got to marry. As a matter of fact, growing up, my father used to tell me, my father definitely encouraged all of his children is make sure you go out and, get educated and be able to do for self. But he would also say things like, a woman is not complete without a man. And this thing puts us women into a lot of trouble, because some of us get so desperate for a man that we're not paying attention to everything else. So let's keep going. Verse 11, the heart of her husband trusts in her confidently and relies on and believes in her securely, so that he has no lack of honest gain. Honest. This is not the one where you're like, she's wearing this lace and I'm still wearing the lace from last year. So please go and do your own 419. Whatever your mates are doing, go and do it so that I took it. Honest gain, right? Or need of dishonest spoil. She comforts, encourages, and does him only good as long as there is life within her. She seeks out wool and flax and works with willing hands to develop it. There's been a lot of talk in these past 30 days about utilizing your gifts and talents, choosing to grow, choosing to develop yourself, choosing to pay attention to what you have at your fingertips and how to then transform it into something else. She develops it. She's into personal development, right? She is like the merchant ships loaded with foodstuffs. She brings her households food from a far country. She rises while it is yet night. That would be Joyce Daniels. And gets spiritual food for her household and assigns her maids their tasks. I'm going to come back and kind of pull all of these verses together, but I'm hoping that as I'm reading it, that certain things are really standing out for you. And gets spiritual food for her household. You understand what that is? Because the Bible tells us man shall not live by bread alone, right? This woman is investing in her spiritual maturity, just like you are today. She considers a new field before she buys or accepts it, expanding prudently and not courting neglect of her present duties by assuming other duties. My sisters and brothers, how many of you, and I'm talking to myself right now, how many of you start and stop? Start and stop. You have 5 different projects you're working on. You have not finished any. How many of you? She considers a new field before she buys or accepts it, expanding prudently and not courting neglect of her present duties by assuming other duties. With her savings of time and strength, she plants fruitful vines in her vineyard. I want to pause here for a second and talk to the men who are listening. What this verse doesn't say is for women who are wives, for those of you who are married, because again, this is for every woman, whether you're quote unquote married or not. But what this verse doesn't say is she goes and she begs her husband and says, please, will you mind? Is it okay if I advance myself? Is it okay if I grow my business? Will you feel threatened by my excellence? Can I, kowtow anymore to you? This verse doesn't say any of that. It says that there's such a level of trust between these two people, for those who are married, that he knows I don't have to worry about her because she's a wise woman. And she also knows I can walk out into the world and do what I'm supposed to do as a full representative of God. And I don't have to be like, oh, husband, will you give me permission first? Because some of you men have taken certain aspects of the Bible and you are literally beating your wives up with it. And really what it is it's camouflaging your insecurities. So when it says, who can find this kind of wife? Men, understand that if she's this wise, and women, listen to me, if she's this wise, then she should also know the part of the Bible that says, be not unequally yoked. And so she shouldn't have just been settling for any man, and she shouldn't settle just for you because you happen to have, male parts. She should also be expecting you to be at a certain standard in your mindset. Now, yes, seasons come and go, things ebb and flow. So everybody's not always high, but you got to look at what a person's vision is for themselves and whether they have the courage and discipline to follow through on it. So even as she's considering a new field and you hopefully are secure in who you are, she's out there doing what she needs to do. You should be out there doing what you need to do as well. Okay. With her savings of time and strength, she plants fruitful vines in her vineyard. She girds herself with strength, spiritual, mental, and physical fitness for her God-given task, and makes her arms strong and firm. We're going to unpack this a little bit more, but just really pay attention. She girds herself with strength, spiritual, mental, and physical fitness. What does that mean to you? What does that look like to you? She tastes and sees that her gain from work with and for God is good. Let me read that again. That her gain from work with and for God is good. Who's she working for? She's not working to be, I'm just an influencer. Hey, look at me. The latest this, that. I went to London and Dubai just for 2 hours because I have private plane and all of that. You understand what I'm saying? Like what she's doing, what motivates her, her purpose is completely connected to who she is as a representative of God on this earth, as God's hands and heart and feet and eyes and so on. And not just, let me oppress, let me pepper them, let me show any of those kind of things. So this woman, what makes her so capable and excellent and strong and virtuous and so on, and whatever adjectives we want to use, is her mindset and her purpose. What is fueling her? You've got to ask yourself, what is fueling you? What is fueling you? She lays her, no, let me continue. No, sorry. No, go back up. Her lamp goes not out, but it burns on continually through the night of trouble, privation, or sorrow, warning away fear, doubt, and distrust. My goodness, can you guys shout on this one? Her lamp goes not out, but it burns on continually through the night. As I read this, what resonates in my spirit is, come rain or shine, she's going to do what needs to be done. Hard times will come. If you live long enough, hard times will hit you in one way, shape, or form or the other. It could be an illness. It could be a parent. It could be a child. It could be a job. It could be any number of things. You invested in something and all of a sudden everything was wiped out. But what she doesn't do is give up on life. Through the night of trouble, privation, or sorrow, warning away fear, doubt, and distrust. Like you have to be intentional. It's like I grow a lot of my own food, and I've got to be intentional about what kind of barriers I create. One, for certain animals that might want to come and eat it. Two, for pests, right? Sometimes I have to plant something more in the shade than where it gets too much sun, because I'm in Texas and we get like 100 degrees for like 30, 45 days in a row. So you're planning, you're trying to take care of those things that could possibly come up. She keeps her hope, she keeps her faith, no matter what's going on. She lays her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. And what I read when I read this, what I read in my spirit when I read this is, some of you have house girls. Some of you have house helps, drivers, all kinds of things. You will ask them to do things that you will never do. You will have people who work for you who are younger than your own children, and you would treat those young children like they too did not come out of somebody's womb, like some mother did not also pray over that child. You are do as I say, not as I do. But this woman is actually leading by example. She herself is also doing work, even though she has a household. In the word, the Bible tells us she had house help. And I've got to ask us, as we talk about liberation and freedom and the end of corruption and so on in Nigeria, how are you treating the people that you have power over? Do they eat from a separate pot? Do they sleep on the ground while your children sleep on wonderful beds? Are your children more deserving than them just because of who they were born to? Do you see their humanity? Do you try to help them so that beyond this season of their life where they're serving you, that they can have a brighter future? She opens her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her filled hands to the needy, whether in body, mind, or spirit. It's not just let me take, let me give, let me get, everybody serve me. Okay, now I was making thousands. I'm now making millions. Time to make billions. Because it's never enough. And you know what? We're in a place where now it's like, oh, generational wealth. But I'm really telling people, think through everything that you are imbibing. Because even a good thing can be too much. And one of the reasons the world is where it is now, and there's so much economic disparity, is this greed. It's what caused slavery. It's what caused colonialism. It's what caused neocolonialism that we're still dealing with now. It was never enough for some people. They just needed to get more and more and more and more. So what are you doing with what you have? Whether it's in body, mind, or spirit, how are you giving to others? She fears not the snow for her family, for all of her household are doubly clothed in scarlet. She makes for herself coverlets, cushions, and rugs of tapestry. Her clothing is of linen, pure and fine, and of purple, such as that of which the clothing of the priest and the hallowed cloths of the temple were made. Read into that what you need to for your spirit in terms of how she conducted herself, what she did, how she provided for herself and her household, and to what purpose. And as you are going through whatever you're going to go through with your riches, ask yourself, what is driving me? Her husband is known in the city's gates when he sits among the elders of the land. There's some people who read this and say, she does so much that she's elevated her husband. I look at it and say, no, she actually chose wisely who she decided to partner with, because he too is doing what he must do to be respected. And that is why he's sitting amongst the elders of the land. She's not bringing shame to him. He's not bringing shame to her. He's not bringing shame to her. She makes fine linen garments and leads others to buy them. She delivers to the merchants girdles or sashes that free one up for service. So when I was reading this again, I was really thinking about so many of the speakers that you have here, that you've had here, so many of you as well, even your comments in the WhatsApp chat. You are basically looking out and saying, what are the needs in my community? And how can I build a business that meets those needs? That's it. What is it that I can bring to the table? How do I meet people's needs? Because the more you can meet the needs of others, the more you're going to get your needs met, because you're adding value to people. And that's exactly what she did. She delivers to the merchants girdles or sashes that then free one up for service. Strength, here it is again. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and her position is strong and secure. I'm telling you that the original the interpretation of this whole idea of virtue, excellence, capable, and so on really had to do with strength, with valor, with the ability to stand firm, with the ability to bring about victory. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and her position is strong and secure. She rejoices over the future, the latter day or time to come, knowing that she and her family are in readiness for it. Are you and your family in readiness for it? For whatever it might be? Are you? Because we're now in a place where actually I have some friends who watch some of the things that I do on Facebook, and now they're in Nigeria. Now they're contacting me like, Aya, how are you planting water leaf in the US? And I'm like, water leaf is like the easiest thing to grow. Seriously. If you went to the market, you cooked with your water leaf, right? And you have those stalks left, just put them in the ground anywhere, water it. It's producing for you within 3 to 4 weeks. And here's what it does. It produces its seeds and it just proliferates. In fact, these last 2 years, I've had to beg people. There's an African market where I live where I'm like, can I bring water leaf to you? You don't even have to pay me. You can dash it to people or you can sell it and make a profit because water leaf are just taking over everything. But there are people literally now in Nigeria who are like, oh, I don't grow anything. When I was growing up, my mother and every other family that I knew had a garden. Now you guys are so sophisticated that we don't grow anything. And don't tell me you live in a city because you can grow in pots. You can grow in raised beds. Listen, we are the most creative people ever. But the whole thing now is that so many of us have positioned ourselves where if the shops close, just like we saw with COVID, we will literally be starving within a few days. I'm sorry, let's go back because I'm going to wrap up and then I'm going to share some slides. All right. She opens her mouth in skillful and godly wisdom, and on her tongue is the law of kindness. Oh, let me read that again. She opens her mouth to gossip and tear down people. She calls people and says, let's pray for sister so-and-so because, did you hear her husband? Did you hear her? No. That's not what it said. In skillful and godly wisdom. And we know that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So this is a woman who is waking up and spending time with God, letting the Holy Spirit minister to her. And that is why when she opens her mouth, it is godly wisdom. And on her tongue is the law of kindness. How many of you are like, it's just who I am. Take it or leave it. I mean, you can cut people with your tongue. And I can say this because, yes, growing up, there were some certain traumatic things that happened to me as a child. And I got really good at just like I could fillet you with my tongue. When I was done talking to you, you couldn't sleep. And I remember one time my father said to me, why did you do that? And I said, it was like maybe 11, 12. And I said, because it was the truth. It was the truth. And my father said, and what did you seek to accomplish? I'm like, it was the truth. The truth will set you free. And he's like, no. You always have to ask yourself with your words, what is it that you're sending forth that word to do? Because if it's just to tear people apart and make yourself feel better, that's not it. That is not a wise woman. If you're with me, can you write, I am wiser? So all of you who are into that, I'm a boy. Hey, my friend, you have so many friends. You're gisting about other people. You can't talk about what's going on in your life because you don't even have time to take care of your own life. It's always talking about someone else. Say, I am wiser and give that up. And the next time a friend calls to gossip, just say, hey, then once they start, you're like, I don't have time. Oh, it was good. We'll have to catch up later. Because you guys already know this. If they're talking about someone else to you, they're talking about you to someone else. All right. She looks well to how things go in her household and the bread of idleness, gossip, discontent, and self-pity she will not eat. So I've already addressed the gossip part. Discontent and self-pity she will not eat. Discontent and self-pity she will not eat. Oh my God. My own. This is. Then you call this friend, you tell them the same story. You call this person, you tell them the same stuff. Then you go and put it on social media. And how about you get quiet and get into your prayer closet and give it to God? All right. Her children rise up and call her blessed, happy, fortunate, and to be envied. And her husband boasts of and praises her, saying, many daughters have done virtuously, nobly, and well, with a strength of character that is steadfast in goodness. But you excel them all. Charm and grace are deceptive, and beauty is vain because it is not lasting. Listen, I'm about to turn 53. I do not look like I did at 21. Maybe that's why women are out here doing BBL and all of the rest of this stuff. This stuff is not lasting. All of this outward stuff. Yes, dress decently and all of that. But understand that what is going to last is the work you do on the inside. But a woman who reverently and worshipfully fears the Lord, she shall be praised. I'm going to get back into this verse in a little bit. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. So at this point, I'm going to switch really quickly to some slides, and I want to really pinpoint certain things. And again, if any of this is resonating with you, each time something resonates with you, it's an affirmation for yourself. I am wiser. I am wiser. So, Joyce, will I be okay? You are sharing it, and it's all the way open. Everybody can see it. All right. So I wrote a book that just came out last month, as a matter of fact, and it's available in Nigeria now, called Your Self-Love Revolution. And when Joyce and I talked, she was like, you can just talk about the book. And I was like, nah, I really want to focus on chapter 31, but I will tie in certain aspects of this book and why this could really be the next phase of what you're doing as you're growing in the knowledge that you've received these last 30 days. So self-love as an essential component to the Proverbs 31 woman. Everything that you see, you can go on to the next slide, or open it up so I can go on to the next slide. Because right now it's showing me, and there we go. Okay, so will you be able to advance it, or can I? It's not letting me advance it.
You can just click the next slide. Let's see.
No, it's not moving.
Okay, I'll take it out and put it back in right now.
Okay, so everything that you see this Proverbs 31 woman doing, this excellent woman, this capable woman, this virtuous woman, this woman of strength.
What did I just do? I was trying to take out the slides and I took her out of the studio. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know you can see me. Well, I hope you can. Please log right back in. Oh my goodness. So sorry. What? Wiser Nation, we are all just... I'm so sorry. I was trying to take out your slides, but I took you out. I'm sorry. Please share the slides again, and I'll put it right back in the stage.
No worries, no worries. Okay, so let's go back and share screen.
Thank you. It's so funny.
All right. Can you see it?
Yes.
Let's okay, I think I can. Yes, I can advance it. Okay. So everything that was driving this woman, if you really were paying attention to all the verses that we were reading, is that she knows her worth. And her worth was not tied to what other people were saying about her. It was not on, who influenced her on Instagram or TikTok, or whether she had the best gilly and all of that. It was an intrinsic worth. And that is where you see her tapping in to her knowledge of who she is in God. Understanding that same power that created the entire universe resides within her. And like I previously mentioned, we are actually supposed to be able to do greater things than what Jesus did. And what are some of the things Jesus did? Literally laid hands on someone and raised them from the dead. So if you haven't done that yet, you have work to do. And let me say that when we look at these words, don't just take them literally. Because actually, what Joyce is doing here, she has, through this work that she's doing here with Wiser, she is raising certain women from the dead. She's raising certain men from the dead. There are people who had given up on themselves, who had just allowed themselves to be so negatively influenced. Or maybe they just grew up in such tough situations and no one ever showed them light. And that is what she's doing. So if you're one who wants to go back and study, you can just put down the verses that you're seeing on the screen. Proverbs 31, 10, 18, 21, 22, 25. You can take them one at a time and meditate on them. That's one of the things I love to do with the word. She knew her worth. And I'm telling you that once you understand who you are, and that it's not tied to any title that you have, you show up differently. You know, when I moved from Nigeria to the US, one of my first jobs here was washing dishes in a restaurant. Now, my father is a whole professor. My mother is a lecturer. We had drivers in Nigeria and everything, you know. And I came here and it's like, I need to make some money. And they were listening to my heavy Nigerian accent and, you know, and it's like, okay, we'll hire you for this. And that's what I did. I got off school and I went there. I put on my apron and I washed dishes for hours every night by hand. And then I'll go back home and study. And one time, the manager called me and he said, "What is it about you?" And I didn't know what he was talking about. And he's like, "You carry yourself like you run this restaurant." I was like, see me see trouble. I don't want problems. So I'm really, you know, like I'm happy for this job and the money that I'm making. And he's like, no, I don't mean it as a negative. He's just like, I just know that I can trust your work. And I took pride in that washing dishes because my worth wasn't tied to that job or the little money I was making. I intrinsically knew who I was, and therefore I showed up differently. And that needs to be your testimony. That needs to be what people say about you. There's just something about her. It's not pride. It's not hubris. It's not arrogance. It's just, I know my worth. And even if I may be down now, I know I'm not going to be down forever. And even if I am way up now, I know that I'm not going to be way up forever because that is just how the world is. But I know who I am on the inside. This woman, what made her so excellent, and men, this is for you too, because if you want to get a woman like this, you need to have all these attributes as well. You need to be teaching your sons as well. You need to be teaching your daughters as well, right? And you need to be an example of this for them. She cares for herself, body, mind, and spirit. She understands that she is a spiritual being having a physical experience, but that this vessel that she's in, I mean, yeah, some of you think you can buy new body parts, but take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Do what you need to do to gird yourself spiritually. And one of the things that I do in this book is to give some practical tips of what that looks like and how you make it happen. How do you go to work and run a business and have children and whatever else you're doing in your community and still have time to exercise? What does that look like? What does it look like to make time for prayer and for meditation and to study? These are some of the things that I get into my book. But the bottom line is this woman, this most excellent specimen, she cared for herself, body, mind, and spirit. So some of you, as you are putting your goals, I hope you're going to go to the live session of Wiser. I hope that you are going to be very intentional about taking care of every part of yourself. All of this gout and diabetes and high blood pressure and all of this stuff that is running rampant through our communities needs to stop. We know better. We should do better. She cares for herself, body, mind, and spirit. Let me tell you, I'm not going to play this right now just because of time, but there are so many videos out there free. This lady, I put it on. I started dancing. I was learning new dance moves because me and Joyce and Kavi, we are going to do a dance video for you guys. No, I'm just kidding. But I love to dance as well. I'm probably not as good as they are at it, but who cares? When I dance, I feel this freedom. And with this one, you're working out at the same time. So whatever it takes, make it fun for yourself, but do it in 2024. She is disciplined, self-motivated, hardworking, and aligned with her values. Remember how when we were reading, it's like she's tied into God. She's doing it for God. She's aligned with her values. The reason she shows up as the wife that she is, if she's married, is because she's tied into a deeper purpose. The reason that she will go and stay up at night or not lose hope is because she's aligned with her purpose. She's aligned with her values. Again, she understands that she's just not a mistake. I don't care what the circumstances of your birth are. After going through 4 miscarriages, I know for a fact that every human being who breathes, who walks the face of this earth, was put here for a purpose, because there are a million things that could have happened in utero for you not to be here today. So you better give yourself some praise, give your God some praise, and then gird yourself and do that discipline and be that discipline. And let me tell you something about discipline. It is very hard to be disciplined without accountability. Very hard to be disciplined without accountability. So hopefully many of you who are on this journey have called friends, brothers, sisters, co-workers, whatever, and you've said, join me in this. If you have a group of friends and you're the only one who's gone through this wiser, let me tell you, go and find a new group of friends, because the way they're aligned is not going to be the way you're aligned, and somebody's going to influence the other. Now you may say, oh, no, I'm going to be the one that changes them. This is what I say to my children. If you're not a good swimmer, don't try to save a drowning person. You're both going to drown. So if you're still at the infancy stage of figuring out how to align with something greater than who you are, figuring out how to not just be focused on what other people say you should be and do and all this peer pressure, right? If you're not one who's really disciplined, if you're not one who's intrinsically self-motivated, if you find yourself being prone more to laziness than hard work, this is not the time to say, oh, I'm going to bring some other people along. No, you first have to gird yourself. And what you don't see about this woman in Proverbs 31 is that she was just hanging around with people just doing nothing or trying to, quote unquote, bring them along. You are not coaching anybody yet, because you have not done anything to get yourself to where you can coach someone. I know everybody wants to be a life coach now, but there's work required. So those are the verses that you can apply. She is generous. Proverbs 31, 15b, 20, 21, 28. We see her generosity. She understands that she must give out of her abundance. In fact, just think of it in a physical sense. If you keep eating and you never pass anything, hey, have any of you ever dealt with constipation? It's a horrible thing, okay? And really, some of you are constipated in spirit. And that's one of the reasons why you are so, it's so unpleasant to interact with you. And you're so jealous and spiteful towards other people because you're literally spiritually constipated. You're not generous. And even now, you are making comparisons with other people. Well, why is she and why is she? Have you done what she is doing? In my business, I could be in a different place now. And there were things that I just wasn't ready to do. One, because I had younger children at one time and I was actually homeschooling them. I was teaching them myself at home. But two, because sometimes I just didn't want to have to bust my butt as much as some of those other people were doing. So then where do I get off like being upset about the fact that they are in a different place? So she was generous. She was generous with her physical things. She was generous with her mind. She was generous with her spirit. Out of her abundance, she gave other people, even as we see JD doing here for us. She was an effective leader. Proverbs 15, 16, 26, 27. If you're in a position where you're leading people, and all of us are in a position where we're leading people either astray or in the right way, you can go back and look at the things she did. She took care of her household. She did not mistreat them. She did not dress herself and not dress them. She did not just say, I'm safe, I'm secure, to hell with y'all, figure it out. how do you show up as a leader? And many other people have talked about leadership throughout this. And then she reverences God and therefore esteems the God within. And I'm getting ready to wrap up here. What does this mean? Reverence God. You know, when I was growing up as a Christian, there was a lot of fear God, fear God, fear God, fear God. It was kind of like you were always hiding, like, oh my God, thunder was going to fall on your head. Ah, my, and so on and so forth. And that is the Old Testament God, if you will. The New Testament God wants a relationship with us. Actually, I think God always wanted a relationship with us. If you go back to Genesis with Adam and Eve. But this is a relationship that is based on love, that is based on understanding that if we won't feed our own children stones, how much more will God do that to us? And so it's a different kind of softness. It's a coming to God totally transparent. And I can't go into this whole story, but when I went through my last miscarriage, I thought I was going to lose my mind. Actually, I felt like I did lose my mind. I thought I was going to die. I wanted to die. And I literally, like David did, I had a shouting match with God. And I just poured it all out. And I said, like, I'm yelling at God. And he reminded me of this verse, John 10:10. For the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I've come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And that was the basis of my first book, Live Your Abundant Life. Understanding what God had for me. Let me wrap up here. So in this book, Your Self-Love Revolution, which at some other point in time, maybe I'll get to share more with you guys. There are some things that I've done in this book. I didn't go through everything, but in terms of knowing her worth, this book is set up to be a 30-day guide. Every day, it's a different lesson, meditation, journal prompts, affirmations. So just in terms of knowing her worth, day 1 in this book covers self-awareness and self-compassion. It gives you positive affirmations. It helps you with goal setting. It teaches you about celebrating achievements because some of us don't know how to do that. It teaches us how to reject comparison because comparison will either make you prideful or it will make you depressed. And just the focusing on how to create new goals. Caring for herself, body, mind, spirit. Day 7 of this book talks about how to develop trust in yourself. Day 9 is about honoring yourself, understanding the stages of shame and how to overcome shame, because so many of us are battling under that. Day 18 specifically goes into connecting with God and our ancestors, the power of prayer. Someone asked a question earlier of a speaker, how do you hear from God? We get into how to have a consistent prayer life, and we do it systematically day by day. So at this point, I'm going to end with saying we have a 30-day free online program. It's Your Self-Love Revolution. You can just copy this code. I'll post this later in the WhatsApp group, but you can sign up and invest in yourself. If you feel like self-doubt is holding you back, if you feel you're stuck, if you're ready to break free from limiting beliefs, childhood trauma, I could tell you all about that. If you're ready to embrace your divine essence so you can really tap into your self-worth and propel yourself, this is one of the ways, one of the tools that you can use. The Proverbs 31 woman had an elevated mindset based on her understanding of her divinity as a child of God. Understand that first you have your thoughts, then those thoughts lead to feelings, feelings into actions, actions into results, and those results your destiny. So you're thinking, hey, I really would like to eat so and so, and then you start feeling like, oh yeah, so I'm really feeling like, and then that's all you're thinking about. You're almost tasting it, and then you act on that feeling, and then the result is you have been eating puff puff all day. I'm saying that because I like puff puff, which is why I stay away from it. And the next thing you're like, oh, I have several spare tires. I have high blood pressure. I'm obese. I'm all of that. And then it affects your destiny, because I now know people who've had body parts amputated and so on and so forth. It's really restricted what they're able to do because of the choices they've made. So some simple affirmations from this book, and we have over 300 affirmations in this book. I am the creator of my thoughts, and I choose to think positively and optimistically. I forgive myself and others, releasing any resentment or past hurts. I embrace my purpose with enthusiasm and joy. And then we say that because some of us, our purposes may be harder, might be a harder road than other people, right? I'm a magnet for positive energy and love. And I'm going to end with this last one that I hope all of you are going to say out loud where you are. I am not just a hearer, but a doer. I am wiser. So thank you so much for the opportunity to have shared with you today. Please stay connected with us. If you want to join our Self-Love Revolutionaries WhatsApp group, here is the link to it. And Joyce, I cannot thank you enough, and I cannot wait to hear you and Brother George share a little bit more on what we as couples need to be doing. Thank you so much.
Yay!
Thank you, Senior Ayayi.
Not senior.
Ayayi.
Let me get out of this.
No, stay. We're here saying thank you.
George, it's so good to see you. Don't tell any stories, though. Don't tell any stories.
We have to tell one. We have to just tell one. At least the fact that you were a set his senior in Federal Government College, Enugu.
Yeah.
So some people need to know that
we're in the same house.
Honesty house.
And how many years later? That was 1980. What? That's almost 40 years later.
Yeah.
We're doing the Lord's
But
work.
George, we are still fine. Forget all these things.
Oh, hot cups of chocolate and coffee with some cream, and we just love you. And you don't even look. No, let's not even talk about that. You look like a girl. If you come into any Nigerian school and you say you're about to have your NYSC, they'll say, "Oh yeah, where were you posted to?" Nobody will ask you any question.
You know what? But the same is true for you. And I really want to say that when we serve God, when we get beyond just the madness of the world that we live in and we tap into God, I really feel like he renews us in so many ways.
He does.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I really agree. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're so grateful.
Thank you so much, Ayayi.
Day 27.
Nice to see you.
Self-love in a digital age. I was tempted to start there, but I was like, no, Joyce, you will go progressively. You will start from day 1 to the end. I'm talking about your book.
Yes. Yeah, because
in a digital age, I was like, wow, we need to see this one.
You know, because this technology has, like with everything, you know, you can use fire to cook food, you can use fire to burn down a house, right? So it's what you do with it. But let me tell you really quickly, I had a client that I was coaching, and we got into relationships, and I was telling her, well, but you know, you have such a great relationship because every Friday on social media, she will post this beautiful bouquet of flowers. And she'll tell us, oh, you know, so surprised to get this again. Oh, how much he loves me. So when we started coaching and she was like, you know, she was looking for a relationship, I was confused. So I was like, what happened to the guy who was sending you all those flowers? Joyce and George, do you know what? She was sending them to herself. And I said to her, do you know how many relationships you have ruined? How many arguments women have had with their spouses because they're like, hey, look at what Joyce's husband does every day for her. And me, nothing. Yes. Because there were even some days that I had seen, because I love flowers. And I was like, wow, must be nice. I was like, really? So self-love in the digital age. Yes, all these things were. I mean, I know women who have gone and gotten, you know, the mommy makeover and everything, you know, everything sucked and tucked in. And then they come out and say, oh, I've been working out. And then you're like, oh my God, what is wrong with me? And you're comparing yourself to them, but you don't know what yes. Listen.
Oh, wow.
Some things you just need a cloak. And everything you guys see on the internet is not true. Let me just put that. Like, have peace with yourself. People taking pictures with somebody else's car, and then you are feeling
flower to flower, flower for flower. Wow. Like I had a hangout with some women. I belong to one of these groups of executive women. I attended the coaching program. So all of us who've gone through that program are there. And we had a dinner a few weeks ago just to celebrate each other and meet each other for the first time. Some of us had never met physically or ever. And I came in, I had this really nice top, tucked into my trousers. And someone was like, oh my God, Joyce, look at you, your stomach's so flat. I said, I eat right, I exercise, and I had liposuction. And she was like, everybody just stopped like, huh? What? And I go, I'm not going to play y'all. I don't play. I like my beautiful body. I enjoy my exercise. I want to be strong. But there were some parts.
You like your beautiful.
We like my beautiful body. But there were some parts I couldn't deal with by myself. I said, hello, doctor. How much is it to suck the fat out of here? And he said, it's this amount. And what else would it? And I did all the research. I studied and studied and studied. And I said, okay, when is our day? I saved my money and I got it done. So I was saying,
I'm glad you said that. Yes.
and it started a whole crazy conversation. I remember when I was in the hospital that year in August, I also had my breasts reduced because I was tired of wearing bras and all the issues. And I said, look, I'm done having children. I want to take care of me. I want to be sweet 16. So when I was in the hospital, I was having
face. Are you seeing his face?
I was having Instagram lives from the hospital and telling people, hey, this is what I'm doing because this is how I want to show up. So I think it's okay to own your truth.
Yes.
And not be ashamed or afraid of it. If it's your truth, but don't do it because you're trying to please somebody else. Don't do it because you don't understand it. Look, there was a woman in the hospital with me, and this hospital was in Enugu. And why did I go there? It was a government hospital that has a cosmetic surgery department. And so, of course, the fees were government fees, unlike the fees that we're being told from all over the place that were crazy. And I met this woman there, and I was like, oh my gosh, let's take a photo together. She said, hey, no, Joyce, I'm abroad right now. I'm in the abroad. Please, people don't know I'm in Nigeria. As in, please, don't try it. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. How are we really going to help each other if we
and that's the thing. And so when we talk about knowing our worth, when we talk about really being able to make it, when you're lying to yourself, it's like the worst lie.
Yeah.
And then it really does cause other people to stumble.
Yeah.
So just own that truth. Listen, after 5 children, yeah. So if there are some things that exercise does not take care of. It's the truth. But making other women feel that, oh, it's just that, oh, they haven't been as disciplined is not helpful. And it's false pride. And so we just need to be more loving to ourselves and to hold up a different, a purer image, if you will. I don't mean pure and moral, but just where how we live does not beat other people down. That's really important to me.
Beat other people down. I think that's the takeaway of it all.
Yeah.
Like what we're about to do here. And we're kind of reluctant to let you go because I feel you're going to be part of this conversation with us, seeing that what we're speaking about is not unique to us. And this is about having healthy, happy relationships. You've been happily married. And
most of the time.
Most of the time.
Not all the time.
Exactly. So that's the truth. The truth is that it is most of the time. It's not every single day, every minute.
No, wasn't every. No, there times when I've been like, what? Huh?
It all comes together.
Yeah. So we want to take the average, right? Yeah. The line of best fit because it's most of the time, and we didn't really plan this, but when we had a number of questions come and people say, no, just you need to do this some more, we did some introspection. And I'm going to let George lead the way on this one.
Really?
Yes. Because when we were talking about it yesterday, you were the one who brought up all the points.
Okay.
So the question is, how, if someone else wants a happy home, a happy relationship, what should they be looking out for? What are 2-3 things? We don't want to do too much.
I think we should start with the question that was sent.
Okay.
Someone asked, the question was to Joyce, really. How?
Let's find that question now. She said,
and it was the first point that we noted about possibility that.
How did you call your husband George into existence?
Yes.
How did you call him into existence? So that number one, yeah, go ahead. You know how I called you into existence. How did I call you?
I didn't call myself into it.
But you know how. Number one was, I knew it was possible. First thing is, the dream is possible. It's impossible to call to existence what you don't believe. You have to believe it is real. So number one was, I bombarded myself with possibility. And this is part of what we are using to set the tone at Wiser Live. We're going to be doing the dream session. I'm going to take people through the kind of dream session that I did on myself with the help of my coach, then Mfon. We went through the dreaming process, and then I began to bombard myself with the possibilities. I began to look out for people who had it. And guess what? I found it everywhere. But like with everything precious, people keep precious stones hidden, precious material under lock and key. It is the bad one you pour out. So people who have poor relationships will talk about it very easily. Oh my God, men, women. But those who have good relationships, many times, like, please, oh, let me protect my own and keep it in here. And I think it's a good thing when we also know when to bring out that diamond, place it on a finger or on the neck and say, hey, y'all, I do have a diamond. It's real. Because some of us will say, that diamond she's wearing, is it real? They sell the fake one in Yaba. And we are so hung up on the fact that the fake is everywhere. We forget that people actually have the real ones. So the possibility that it is real first. I remember the story, I think it was, I'm sure I've told this story before, but I always love to tell it. She was speaking at an event in 2004. My son was just about 2 years old. And she said, please give me a fake 2,000 naira note. Can somebody help me get a fake 2,000 naira note? And people were like, no. She said, you know why you can't find a fake 2,000 naira note? Okay, give me a fake 1,000 naira note. And she was like, can you find it? They said, yes. The only reason why you can't find a fake 2,000 is because there's no real one. There's nothing to copy. But the moment you have a real one, then you can make the counterfeit. So for every time you hear of 10 bad ones, there is a good one somewhere. We just have to remember that it is possible. Someone somewhere has that real one. And if somebody somewhere has it, then how do I get mine?
True.
So that number one is possibility. And yes, we're talking about relationships now, but it can be everything else.
And also to know that I've always said marriage is a beautiful institution created by God.
George says it all the time.
It's a beautiful institution. I mean, and the only way you can enjoy it, the only way you can experience what God had created it for, is finding the right partner. And a lot of it comes down to purpose.
Yes.
So what's the purpose of each of you? It has to connect. Because if it doesn't, you'll find that you're walking at different directions. So purpose, it is possible to have a beautiful relationship. When I first met Joyce, the first thing we did, yes, so
your heart was beating with him.
In fact, let me not go into the story of how I met her. I'll just say little. I just saw her on her Instagram live.
Hey, we gotta go live this year. Y'all gotta go live this year.
On her Instagram live. And that was it.
Coach Ella.
George, may I say something to the point that you just made now? Because I was thinking about how when people read Proverbs 31, they're always saying, he who finds a good wife finds a good thing or something like that, right?
Mhm.
And so women are like, oh, he has to find me. But what I'm telling women is go and read the rest of the Bible, because you need to be out and about doing something worth seeing to be found. Shebi,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
So you were living out your purpose and you're on Instagram and this guy sees you and is like, I want to know more about this person. You could have been in your house just as excellent as you are and just cooking and whatever, and he would not have seen you. You know, so when I talk to young people, first of all, I'm like, you don't need to at 18 be worrying about who am I marrying and all of that. Right now, your focus needs to be who am I? What's my purpose? So that you are then putting out the energy to attract someone that is aligned with your purpose, which hopefully is aligned to God. And then go out and live your life fully. And the person who's supposed to see you is going to see you. But you cannot be like church mouse, or I only go to choir practice. That's the only thing. I mean, yeah, I guess you could be found at choir practice, but
You have to be seen. I'll tell you, before I met George, about a month or 6 weeks before I met George, I had contacted a matchmaker. I heard of this guy. I try to remember his name now, somewhere here in Lagos, and his job was matchmaking. And I said, I've got to the point where I am now ready for a relationship. So if I position myself for business, why am I not going to position myself for the kind of relationship I want? And so I got the guy, paid the money, and it was supposed to be a 30-minute interview. That interview lasted an hour plus. The guy was asking me so many questions. He said, look, I've done this for almost 2 years. I've never heard anybody so detailed about what they're looking for. Like, what? You are schooling me. And we went on, and I was so clear. In fact, one of the things I said that made him fall down, I said, I want a guy who understands that God is not locked up in a church somewhere. Because at that time,
Joyce, where did your clarity come from? Because some women need to understand that the path that they're going to, and even men, that the path that they're going through, if they pay attention, will give them the clarity to bring into their lives what they want. How did you get this clear?
My clarity came from, one, my experience, and two, my exposure. I had exposed myself to knowing more about God, knowing more about his existence and my existence, knowing more about the laws of the universe that I had not acknowledged because I felt they were contrary to God. Why would I acknowledge the universe when I should be acknowledging God? But then he has put me in the universe to be fruitful, multiply, have dominion over. So I must understand how the universe works. So some of those things about universal laws, I never wanted to hear them as a church girl. It was like, no, don't talk universe. Okay. We are talking God, you're saying universe.
Who created the universe?
My sister, please.
And he says everything he created, he looked at it and said it was good.
But you see, that was part of the challenge. I couldn't understand it. And also I had heard by some preachers who I looked up to, but I don't blame them because it's not their responsibility to take my destiny to where it should be. It's my responsibility to find it out. It's the glory of God to hide things. It's my glory as a king to search it out. So I began to understand that these laws were made by God for me because I had been exposed to this kind of knowledge. I was reading the books, I was attending the programs, I was listening and questioning. And for the first time, I had the guts to cancel "Don't question God." And I said, no, I will question God because he said I should ask him. Ask of me and I will show you. Ask of me. So I will question him.
That's why I say read the whole Bible. Because didn't Jacob fight with the whole angel? And he was like, I will not leave you until you bless me.
Until you bless me.
Yeah.
I questioned. And so I understood. Maybe I'll summarize it in one scripture that says we create the worlds by the words of our mouth. So my clarity came from my world will only be created by me, not by God. Because I'd been saying, God give me, God give me. Now I have given you the power. So I need to own it, see it, and begin to say it, create it. So I wrote it down. I said to that matchmaker, I want a guy who is plus 15 or minus 5 in age. He can be as old as 15 years above me or 5 years younger. I'm open to all of this. I would prefer a widower. I want the wife gone. I don't want nobody where there's one other girl I'm looking at somewhere. I was that clear. I was like, well, if it's a divorcee, well, we'll talk about a number of other things about how are they with co-parenting. I want to know where they will be at, but I would prefer someone who the mother of his children is gone already. I was that clear with no apology to anybody.
I want to say something.
Please say.
That money she paid to the
The
matchmaker
matchmaker.
was the seed
So fine.
to bring me.
Come on. Check.
That was the seed money.
I also want to say, and this is where coaching also comes into play. With that man asking you those many questions, it actually, and correct me if I'm wrong, it actually made you think deeper about what you wanted. It caused you to even get clearer. And then you're actually declaring what it is that you want.
Yes.
You're speaking it out into the universe, so to speak. I mean, and so many of us speak things like, there's no good man, oh, there's no this, oh, all these women are, and you're speaking and you're basically like sowing seeds, like you said, with your words, and then those seeds grow and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. We need to prophesy differently. Wow. How powerful.
I said it. I want a man who worships the ground I work on, who is not afraid to love me and worship me. I used that word. I used the word. And so when I have George who does worship me,
as he should,
and he's so,
I'm blushing.
in fact, he loves the art of worship. But yes, I owned it. And I said it again and again. And I said, there are men who believe they should worship their wives. I will find that type. He will be attracted to me. And George, I remember some of the first things he said. In fact, the first time we had lunch, you said it that day at lunch. It was after you said that I fed you. Where he said he believes, I call it old school or whatever. He believes he, as a man, is supposed to be the one worshiping, guiding, protecting, nurturing. And I was like,
excuse me, but isn't the, because men always like to say, oh, I'm the head, she's the neck, the whatever. But doesn't the Bible say the husband should love his wife like Christ loved the church? Which means, and what did Christ do?
The worship
willing completely sacrifice his life. So this is very biblical.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we see ourselves at loggerheads and we get into this, oh, is she a submissive wife? Let me tell you, men, any of you listening, if you love your wife, she will have no problems so-called submitting to you.
Yes.
If you are a leader and you are loving her with the love of God, you're worshiping. Shebi, you just heard Joy say, after he said that, now she begin feed him. She's like,
the guy was shocked. I started feeding him. I said, eat of the apple of love. And I had no shame. I mean, I was saying to myself, it's my life here we're talking about. It's my life at the end of the day. So I cannot be ashamed to say what I really want. And I think some of us know what we want, but we're afraid to say it. We're afraid that we might say it and it won't come to pass. And so we don't say. But I guarantee you, you will still create the world, your world, with your words. So you might as well say your truth, the truth you really want. We've heard so much about what has gone wrong that has become law. What is one of those things you hate hearing, George, about money?
Oh, that I hear it a lot everywhere. His money is our money, and my money is my money. And I'm like, huh? There is nothing. The word says that the two have, it didn't say shall. It said the two have become one. Oneness of mind, oneness of purpose.
Oneness of money.
So, it's funny when you hear that. I mean, that does not take away the responsibility of the man. The man has to do, as you have said rightly, Ayayi, about loving your wife as Christ loved the church. Yes. But when you start having that individuality in a relationship, it brings about issues in the long run.
Well,
So,
I think it exposes issues because
it
for me,
exposes issues.
it's an indication of lack of trust. I don't really trust you to follow through on your word, or I don't trust you with money.
Yeah.
I don't trust, because women were really about security, right? We want to like this woman in Proverbs 31, like, hey, I want to make sure my family is fine, so on and so forth. So if you happen to be with someone who doesn't seem to have a good relationship with money, with finances, you're like, okay, oh, whatever you're doing there, but I'm gonna keep my rainy day fund, so to speak.
Yes.
So I think it's an indication of a lack of trust, but we have a hard time speaking truth to one another, and yeah, communication is really important.
That's where communication comes in,
which is number 2. Honest, naked communication with respect. The ability to tell each other as you really feel your truth, but say it in a loving, respectful manner, but say it. I need to know how you deal with money. Tell me about that. Who are you owing? What is your money behavior? How do you why are you laughing?
You know I'm laughing. While Joyce was interrogating me, that was one of the questions she asked me.
Not interrogation.
Because we had said it was an interview session.
She said, I need to know, are you owing anyone?
And it was not from the place of I would run away if you're owing. No, but let's know. We owe
there. Let's be clear. Yes.
Yeah, so I told her I'm not in the habit of owing people.
I said, yes, I understand you're not in the habit, but are you owing someone that right now?
But you know what you guys are demonstrating, though, is that you had the courage and the maturity to have those
maturity.
What could be considered difficult or uncomfortable conversations up front. And I'm often amazed when I speak with people, and some of this has to do with the fact that we live in a culture that tells people to get married very early, right? And before biological and other reasons. But a lot of times we don't, you're getting married at 21, you don't even know yourself. You don't know what questions to ask. And even if you had a hint of it, because our elders have not done a good job preparing us for marriage either. Okay, there are a lot of conversations that we were not made privy to, things we were not. It's like, when you enter, you figure it out. Yeah, that's problematic. But I've had people who it's like, oh, I can't ask him that, or I can't ask her that. What if it scares him away? Wouldn't you rather know now than after you said I do? Yeah. But not having that courage, not knowing how to have those conversations. And so, anyone listening, there is no shame in getting help. No shame. Joyce just said, hey, I went to a guy who's a matchmaker. Like, hey, this is what I want. You said you can help. Let's figure it out. And sometimes people can help and sometimes they can't. But each step of the way, you're putting out into the universe your desire. And there's still going to be something you learn through that process. You've got to be willing to go after what it is you want. And if you want a great marriage, then you've got to be willing to do the work.
Yeah.
And the last point that we noted is sacrifice. So
Hey, not
one
the
of the
S
things
word.
That S word.
uh, one of the things we determined that we're going to do was create our own world that is unique to us, unique to our values, unique to our purpose, unique to what we want to experience, what we want to see. And that is unique to each couple. One size does not fit all. So everyone has to sit down and come up with what works for them
And then make the sacrifice.
and
to
make the
it happen.
sacrifice to make it happen.
Yeah.
And also be able to shut the world away from that bubble that you have created for yourselves. Because whether we like it or not, there are people or situations that would always want to penetrate into that bubble. And the moment that happens, it destabilizes that world you have created or you're creating for yourself.
So let me talk about one of the sacrifices I'm making. So you can also share one of the sacrifices you're making to make the relationship happy and healthy. I sacrifice some level of independence. I have always been extremely independent. My mom is here. Yeah, my mom got married at 21, and she says, yes, she got married at 21, didn't know anything about marriage. Nancy Oamen, she just put her comment there.
Yeah, my mother was married at 20. They'll be celebrating 60 years next year.
Wow, 10 years beyond my parents. Yeah, so 60 and 50
Can you
next
imagine
year.
marrying at 20? You can't even spell your name.
But really, can we imagine it that these are our children now at 20, they're married?
Yeah.
Wow. Like my son is 21. What is he marrying? If he was a girl, what's that?
To do what? Yeah.
So it's true. And I said to him many, many years ago, by the time we got more mature, and by the time I was saying it to him, I'm sure he was 11, 12. And I said, from the things I've understood, I don't even know let you get married before age 30. So I don't even want to hear you say, Mom, anything about a girl I'm marrying. I want to hear things about you, how you're understanding yourself, and so and so and so, before I hear that you want to bring somebody's daughter. I would I would take you through. I'm not saying it's a hard and fast rule that you must be 30, but I said to him that I think it's wise. I said even Isaac got married at age 40, so it's all right. Oh yeah, I see people's moms got married at 18 and 15 and 12. What did they know? So how can we really be angry with them that, oh, they didn't teach me this? What did they know?
That was back in the day.
So we need to break that generational curse, as we call it, by all the things you are doing, Aya. You've schooled yourself. And you refer to your parents a lot. You refer to your mom. This morning you said, it was yesterday you said your mom said, are you made of firewood? You need to rest. You're not firewood. And I was like, wow, that's great. You've owned it and said, that's true. I'm not firewood, so I should rest from time to time. Maybe because in her own day, at some point, she thought she should have been firewood. And then she realized, nah. So she's now saying to her daughters, you are not firewood, where someone might have said to her, no, you must be strong. You're the woman of the house. So somehow I realized my siblings, my family members will say, oh, Joyce is like this. If she wants to do something, independent, she's not asking this. Sacrifice for me is now, as much as there's some things I want to do, I have to come back and I say, George, I'm thinking about this. And then sometimes he has that smile like, you say you're thinking, but I know it's what you're already doing or something. But the fact that I can talk about it, get his inputs, his ideas, and not independently just take decisions. Yes, I have made one or two decisions that hurt him, and he was like, you could have told me about this just for courtesy. And I go, oh wow.
God, that sounds like my husband. Oh my goodness. I mean well, but there are times when it's like in the moment, it's like, okay, let's do this. And he's like, why am I hearing about this from oh God,
no, see, it's like this. Yes, even if you have to do something in the moment,
just call me.
You can, if I'm not around, you can just send me a message. Oh, I had to do this sharp.
And so in the past, maybe
That's
in my
it.
past relationship, I might have said, well, if you didn't get the memo, after all, it was with good intentions, but now
deal
the
with it.
sacrifice for me is, I'm sorry, George. I didn't mean to hurt you. And sometimes when I'm saying that I'm sorry, my inside is like, guy, like for real? Didn't you get the memo that I'm an independent woman? But I go, this is the sacrifice because I want this relationship to work. This is a happy home. And in happy homes, people do things in a different way. So Joyce, today you're going to apologize. Even though you feel like not apologizing. Joyce, today you're going to look at it from his point of view and mean it. Your sorry is not going to be, let me say I'm sorry, I beg so that we can move on. It will be, I'm sorry because I mean it. And next time I will make the effort to say it this way. So that's sacrifice for me.
Wow, you are really teaching right now. You are really.
It's hard. Some days it's really, really hard.
And one of the sacrifices I made was from the onset. I made up my mind to understand what her world was like.
Wow.
So I took out time. I followed her for most of her events.
Everyone.
The ones that I could attend, just basically studying what her profession was about, politics.
He went everywhere with me
In fact,
to understand it.
At the time, they even thought I was an Edo man.
You are. We have married you. And
you were going into these places to better understand her, support her, not to I gotta get the spotlight on me,
not to monitor me or take any. No,
that's the word. Support,
to understand.
A lot of people don't tend not to do that.
To understand the person.
To understand the person they're with, understand what the person is. So, like I said earlier, purpose. If you're not able to understand what the other person's purpose is, you can't key.
Yeah. Thank you. That was really sacrifice. Yeah. Thank you.
You know what? I'm glad you guys brought that up. There is and this I know again in Nigeria it's like a big thing. I think more pressure on women to get married than men, maybe because of this, whole childbearing thing. But there's a book that I wrote called Reclaim Your Life: Guidance for Wives at the Crossroads. And people say, oh, is it just for people who are married? And I was like, actually, no, it's a book that I wish I would have read before I got married, because one of the things that I cover in that book is even unpacking why you're trying to get married. What is your purpose?
Yeah.
Okay, I got pregnant. Let's do this before people find out. Or he has money, or she's eye candy. She will, look good on my arm.
Or she's almost 30.
Yeah. Or I'm almost 30. I must have children. Or I can get an inroad to her father's business or something, so you actually need to, why am I trying to get married? Because you know what? Marriage is not for everybody.
It's not. And even Jesus said so.
It really is not for everybody. Now, society is telling you, my parents for a long time didn't think I was going to get married. You talk about being independent. They were like, this one, they hear, that way. And for me, it was just that I had seen a lot of relationships that were little, not what I wanted. And I was just like, I'd rather have peace by myself. Like, I don't need all of this, and I don't need a man to fulfill me. Although I would love to be in a loving relationship and have a partner that I can really build something lasting with, because we really go further in community.
Yes, we do.
Than alone. But I also was not going to force it, and I was not going to just marry so I can be. I have a friend she's a physician, and she's like, I had to be Mrs. Somebody now. I was like, wow. And she's extremely miserable. And it's like, this is not the life that God would have wanted for you, in my opinion, but everybody has to decide. But I would just say, if you're someone on here and you're like, I want to be married, or I am married and things aren't exactly what I want them to be or how I think they should be, like, even just go back to, why did you get married? Or why is it that you want to get married? And do you need to adjust that thinking so that you are in a mindset to do some of the work? Because you guys are making it seem easy, but you were both very intentional, and it's not that common. It's possible, but it's not that common. You were both very intentional in how you treated one another when you came into each other's orbits. Yeah. And we don't always see that. I'm very gratified just to see you guys love and relationship.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
George said something when we met, and that whole first year, I always asked him, "Is this the real you?" There were times he would be driving and he's saying, "Why are you looking at me like that?" I said, "I'm wondering, is this the real you, or is there another part I'm going to see later? Bring it all out now." And he'll go like, "You ask me this question every day." I said, "Because I need you to really be real, and let's see, because you're so loving, mushy, all this. Show me the real you." And he was like, "This is the real me." And one day he said, "Let me tell you why I'm like this. Number one,
because he was an honesty house."
He said, number one, my parents loved each other. He watched his mom and his dad, Ibidum, and don't remind me of Erasmus. Because there were times he would say, his mom would turn and say, "Eras, say, Eras, something." So he watched them have a loving relationship. That was one. Two, he's had past relationships that didn't work well. And he said, I've gotten to the point where, he said, I said to myself, I've been a single dad so long. George was the helicopter dad who dropped his children off at school every day. He was there for PTA. He was PTA, EXCO, everything. He was that dad. And he said, I've gotten to the point where my baby is about to finish secondary school. Once they ship off to university, I want to take care of me. He said, I want to take care of me. So any relationship I'm getting into now, we have to be peaceful, because we are not here for nonsense. We can't make the same mistakes we made in our 20s and 30s. So he was also clear about his joy. He said, zero drama. So he was saying, before I met you, I had said zero drama. He said, I met this girl. When she said this kind of thing, I was like, there's going to be drama there. I met this one. When she said the drama, So one of the questions he asked me when we spoke on the phone was like, do you still want to have babies? And I said, no. He said, no, I'm not. Look, be honest with me. I don't want that after 4 years, you say, we should have one love child. Please tell me now. Are you sure if you want to have children? I said, no more. I'm done. He said, okay, because he said, I can't do school runs anymore. And I can't quarrel about who is picking which child from where. I won't do it. This time, I'm looking for relationship to be boyfriend and girlfriend. And you were the one always saying, I want to be a boyfriend and girlfriend. So please, if you are not ready for boyfriend, girlfriend, I'm not the one you're looking for. So he also had his list.
Yeah.
And he was clear.
So when Joyce was mentioning the mushy parts, like, in fact, in all this hardness, it's a layer of.
George used to read Mills and Bones in secondary school. So he's an M&B guy. He's a lover.
No, seriously, he was, what I remember of him is he was one of those really genuinely good guys. There were all kinds of different characters, but he was one of those people where you're like, this is a good guy. Like, you are safe with him. He wasn't trying to tap feelings and all of that. If he was tapping feelings, I don't know. I'm just saying what I saw.
That's talk for another day. I think the point here is for everyone, as even if you are in a marriage that is not as happy as you would want it to be, know this: it is possible to regenerate. And it won't happen overnight. It will be hard work, but it is possible. So that is why number one remains possibility. The moment you say it is possible and you continue to believe it, say it, speak it, the universe begins to send you help. The universe sent me Mfon Ekmo.
Actually, no, Mfon.
You do? Mfon was my coach for 2 years.
Because I think we were at the John Maxwell's Academy around the same time.
Yeah, she's John Maxwell.
Yes. Yeah.
The universe began to send me people to see this is possible. I would hear stories I had never heard before about possibility, but I knew I don't care what has happened before or what has happened to anybody else. I know this is possible. Do you know, it was even tough for me to find a clear picture of a happy marriage from the Bible. I couldn't find one very clear happy marriage in the Bible. I mean, I saw Abraham and Sarah, then they were at loggerheads at some point, but God said, listen to what your wife is saying. Okay, so yeah. Then I saw Isaac and Rebecca and how at some point she was cornering the children here and there. I was like, yay, what's going on? Then I saw David and the wife he didn't want, but he got. But later he saw the wife he wanted. And although, and I'm saying this with every sense of responsibility, although he took her and killed her husband, and that one, will leave God to judge him and judge them.
And God did. God said he's a man after my heart.
But then he nurtured her. And that was when I was like, okay, there was some nurturing here. That gives me some level of possibility. Where else? Okay, I heard of Aquila and Priscilla. Where else? Where else? Oh, then there was Esther and her husband. But
Zechariah and Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth, they nurtured each other. So I was like, okay. There was Esther and her husband who seemed to have some sort of mutual agreement. And there
was Abigail and her foolish husband.
Who died?
And then she got with David.
Yeah, and then she got to David. So I was like, whatever it is I'm seeing here, all I'm taking away from this is there is possibility. So whether this is my second marriage, there is possibility. And that was enough for me that it was possible.
Yes.
So that's how I to the person who sent me the question, I don't think you want me to mention your name. So that's how I created him out and he created me out. Now, George, I want to talk about money a little bit.
Yeah.
George said, call me old school or whatever. He said it so many times, but I'm the guy who believes that the guy provides. I will never ask you for your money. I will never ask you for how much you earn. I will never. And he has never. He asks me how much I'm earning because he challenges me to earn more. And he goes, there was a day he was listening to me negotiate over the phone. And when the call was done, he was like, how dare you? Do you know who you are? That you are about to accept this amount of money. Come here. Do you know who you are? Why? And I was like, okay. I thought I knew who I was. And he says, you don't know. Let me tell you a thing or two. And he goes on and he said, look, if you can't negotiate, tell them to speak to your manager, give me the phone and let me speak on your behalf. So in that regard, he knows what I earn, but he has never asked me for anything. And he says, I know you. If we need something, you will also bring out the money, but I will never ask you, because that's not how I was raised. That's not what I believe. That's not how I've agreed with God. God provides everything for us. Yes, we work hard, but he provides for us. So that's what I believe. I'm the one who will be your Christ. I will give you the grace. I will provide for all of that. This is not to beat anybody down. This is not to shame anybody. And this is not to inspire any level of self-pity.
Like
Yeah.
we have said before, it is unique to couples. There are couples that work.
Everybody bring 50-50.
Everybody
And it works for
50,
them.
and it works for them. This is what we have agreed. When that time comes, I pray to God it never comes. If you understand what I mean, that the well without to provide for the family will continue to be there. And gladly, JD doesn't ask for much. So, I mean,
you always say that.
She doesn't ask for human hair, which I understand is about $1 million now.
Please, those who want to ask for human hair, ask.
I tell my husband, I'm like, listen, you don't even know how cheap I am for you. You don't know what you're
look at us lockheads. So it's to say you can create your own world, but know what that world is and stay with it.
And how it works for you.
And make it work for you. If what you do believe is 50-50 come to the table, then make sure you're with somebody who believes in 50-50 too. And make it work. Please, that's what we're saying here. We found what works for us and we tweak. There's some things we have tweaked since we met. We've adjusted. Okay, we can extend to this. How we talk with the children. Certain things we do, we're tweaking. We're discovering more. But more importantly, we know it requires sacrifice, and we keep evaluating that we can make the sacrifice, and we will make the sacrifice to get the joy that we want. Because at the end of the day, it's us, it's our joy. It's our
joy. What I'm hearing both of you say is, first of all, we knew our individual self-worth.
Yeah.
We knew what we wanted. We knew that we wanted love, we wanted happiness, and we believed that it was possible. We had a vision for what kind of relationship we wanted. We were very clear, very detailed about what we wanted and did not want. I don't want any more kids. I don't want to do school runs. I don't want a man with woman, mothers coming in to dictate policy in my house. And so you were very clear on all of those things. You had that vision. You made it clear. And then you systematically took the steps to be the kind of person who could attract that kind of person into your life.
Yes.
You did that work yourself so that when the person saw you, they're like, this looks like everything that I've been asking for, that I've said that I wanted. So you guys were individually doing your own work. And then when you came together, you had those tough conversations. Are we really on the same page? You did not immediately jump into bed and into marriage without really checking to see, are we equally yoked? You all did all of this work.
Yes.
Okay, George is about to say something. And since
then, George,
you have been tweaking, but you're very intentional about your relationship. Some of us get into marriage and we just feel like, oh, we plan more for the wedding. Okay, we've married. Now everything should just happen on its own. You got to tend it. You got to know what it is that you're going for. And the last thing I would say is, for anyone watching, understand that there are also different seasons in marriage.
Okay.
If you two got together when your kids were still 5 and 6 years old, the dynamics would be a little different. I mean, the little kids just put a different level of stress. Okay, let's just call it what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Maybe you're not as established in your careers. Maybe you're not even as established in your sense of who you are. So if anybody's watching now, please don't get into the, without doing the work they've done, you can immediately have what they have. There's steps to it. and so commit to those steps. Own what you can do yourself first, and then you will be able to attract that person. Or if you're already in a marriage, don't just be pointing fingers about what that other person isn't doing. Get yourself sorted out, if you will.
Yes.
And then you're in a place where you can communicate with that person. Maybe you guys need counseling from a real counselor, not these fly-by-night people.
Not these fly-by-night people. Real trained counselor who
Counselors.
knows what counseling is. I do agree totally. George, final words?
Let's see. I agree with you.
What
This,
did Lacey say?
she said this will soon be like night school.
No, we're closing down right
We're
now.
closing down right
We're closing
now.
right now. Our alarm just rang like, no, we're done. We had said we would try and make it shorter, but here we are.
I think all has been said.
Yeah.
All I can say is from I and Joyce, the key thing was that we desired what we have right now. And as Aya said, we have been intentional about the things that we need to do and ensuring that those things are working. As we go along, there might be some readjustment, but they will be little because we have the foundation that we already need, that we're building on. So that's it. One size does not fit all.
And we'll never fit all.
Yeah, we have gotten to this point, this level of maturity to be able to achieve this kind of relationship that we have. Maturity comes different stages in life. You can be mature at 25, you can be mature at 30, but you have to understand where you're going to and what you want, the kind of partner that you want in your life.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Closing words for me would be see you all at Wiser Live on Saturday, the 13th of January. We will go through some of these dream sessions, how to dream. Some of us dream already. We can direct, we can create our own dreams. We would really spend time dreaming, and then how to put in the work. What are some things to cut off, to add, to ensure that the dream converts to reality? Because we've seen it in scripture, we've seen it in people's lives, we've seen it in our lives, and we know it's possible. So please make out time for Saturday 13th. Make that sacrifice and let's make it happen. Aya, thank you for being our co-moderator.
Hope to see you
panelist
the next time you're in Nigeria.
Yeah. And it's midnight. Is it midnight? It's 1 a.m. now where you are, right? It's 1.
This has been so enriching for me. You've given me so much to think about. And anyone who's listening to this, actually it's virtual as well. There's no reason why every one of us is not signing up for this. I mean, just look at this couple, look at Joyce, and understand that you cannot lose by going to Wiser. You cannot. It's going to enrich your life, period. Go. I'm signing up. Please.
Thank you. We love you. It's been amazing. 31 days.
Yeah.
I'm missing us already. But I'm glad that our testimonies are coming in.
Yeah.
Our testimonies are coming in.
And Happy New Year to every one of you.
2024.
2024 is going to be an amazing year.
Our best year so far. Aya, you love to your family. Thank you. And thank you for giving us this high to close with. We love you. Bye, everyone. Bye.